We're on the next Parsha, and Parsha Shoftim, which always comes out right around the time of Elul. Elul is the month of a little introspection and a little, a little bit of getting ready for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So it says like this, page 1024. Shoftim v'shotrim tita l'cha v'chol she'arecha. Place judges and enforcers. The word shoter, modern Hebrew. See, the modern Hebrew language was created. Well, the problem is the modern Hebrew language was created by secular Jews to match the words. So they picked words out of the Chumash and out of the Nach and distorted the whole bunch of us. So when you shotrim, you're picturing a guy in a blue uniform. Whereas over here, what a shoter means is it means an enforcer, people who enforce the judgment in Beis Din. And the Medrash says that without enforcers, you can't have judges, because the judge could tell you, okay, you're chayiv to pay him. Then you walk out of court and you say, well, twiddle-dee-doo, I'm not going to pay him. So there are enforcers. And the enforcers themselves have to be impeccable, like the judges have to be impeccably honest. We'll see in a little while. And the enforcers are there. The Gemara even says that even Dovid HaMelech, if he didn't have Yoav, who was the head of his army, to enforce the law, so then there goes his strength. You have to have enforcers. But you're talking about people who are righteous and people who are upright, and they're not going to be corrupted. And so you have Shoftim v'shotrim. So Shoftim really means enforcers. How does he translate it? Officers. Okay. In modern Hebrew, discipline is called mishtar. Mishtar is discipline. That's they use it in the classroom. So titen lecha b'chol she'arecha, you should have judges and enforcers in all of your gates. Asher Hashem lokecha nosein l'chol yishotecha, which He gives you in your tribes. V'shoftu esa mishpat tzedek. They should judge righteously. Let's read 3 psukim. Then we'll come back to this. Lo sata mishpat, do not distort the judgment. Lo sakir panim, do not play favoritism. Do not, literally means do not recognize faces. V'lo sikach shochad, don't take bribes. Ki ha-shochad ya'aver einei chachamim, bribery blinds the wise. V'salef divrei tzadikim, and it distorts the words of the righteous. Once you've taken a bribe, you can't stay honest. I told you in Chicago, an honest cop was a cop that after you bribed him, he stayed bought. That was an honest cop in Chicago. Tzedek, Tirdov, we'll see. Tzedek, you should chase righteousness. So the Torah begins with the laws of courts and judges and shoftim. Now, if you look right back at the end of Re'eh, at the end of the previous parsha, where it talks about the three holidays, Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. And the very last pasuk says, "Ish kematnas yodo kibirkas Hashem Elokecha asher nasan lach." It ends with bracha. That when you go up to Yerushalayim, you bring sacrifices. They used to go up on the 3 times a year. They would bring sacrifices to Yerushalayim. So the Torah says that each person should bring according to what Hashem has blessed you with. If He's blessed you with wealth, so you bring more sacrifices. Then right away, Shoftim v'shotrim tita l'cha b'chol she'arecha. So like everything else in the Torah, there are no accidents. Why this Parsha juxtaposed to the previous? Why is this pasuk follow the previous pasuk? So the Mefarshim explain. I think it's a Medrash that says, yeah, sure, you'll have blessing. You know when you're going to have blessing? When you have honest judgment in the law. There's honesty. There's honesty in the law. There's no corruption. In the courts, there's no corruption. And you notice that one of the 7 Noachide laws, there are 6 prohibitions in the Noachide laws. You know what are the 6 prohibitions? That's the one everybody remember. That's the first one that comes to mind. Don't kill, don't murder, don't commit adultery, don't worship idols, don't steal, don't blaspheme to curse God, and don't rip the limbs off of living creatures. But somehow that's the one people associate first. Yeah, don't rip the limbs off of living creatures. People forget about adultery. Don't rip the limbs off of living creatures. And there's only one positive one. For Noachites, who keep 7 Noachide, what's only one positive law? What is it? Establish courts. Because you can't have a society without some sort of law and order. You have to have law and order. Every time there was ever a blackout, what's the first thing that happens when there's a blackout? There's looting. Why are they looting? What's looting got to do with the blackout? The answer is because you're no longer intimidated by the law enforcement agency, so then you go berserk. And that's why there's street lights all over the place. If there are no street lights, there's trouble. I walked out onto my street the other day, last week. For some reason, the street lights aren't working. And that's not a good situation. Then a lot of stuff can happen with it. That's what yeah, it's not good.
So do Noahites not get scarred for doing stuff like giving tzedakah and stuff?
If they do, they get schar, but they don't get the schar. Good question. They get schar, but not as one who is commanded to do it. Ironically, the Gemara in Kedushin says Rav Yosef was blind. And Rav Yosef was happy that he was blind, yet he fulfilled the mitzvahs. Because he said, here I am, I'm blind, I don't even have to do it. I'm not even obligated, and I do it. Then somebody came over, somebody in the Gemara says that the person who's commanded to do it gets more schar than the one who's not commanded to do it. And when you do it and you're commanded, Gadol ha-mitzvah v'osa mimisha eino mitzvah. The one who's commanded and does it gets greater schar than one who's not. Why is that? Why is that? You got a Yetzer Hara, you got nervousness, it's not as gishmak. Got a lot of different, once you're told to do it, it's not as much fun. But when you volunteer, you feel like you're a national hero. They should give you the keys to the city. But when you're told to do it, and it's almost people generally intuitively think the opposite. I'm a volunteer. I don't even have to do it. Sure. The example I gave you is the husband who rolls up his sleeves on a Motzei Shabbos without his wife asking him. He rolls up his sleeve and he's approaching the sink to start scrubbing crusty chonk pots and all the dishes and silverware that accumulated over Shabbos. And he's approaching the sink. And just then his wife's in the other room and she says to him, Avram, do you mind washing the dishes? What happens at that moment? Right? It lets all the air out of your sails. Right? It lets the wind out of your sails. Why? Because now you're no longer a volunteer. Now you better do it. Now you better do it. Well, now you better do it. So it takes the fight. So Rav Yosef then, he said, if somebody could tell me that I'm greater for volunteering, I'll be happy. But at the end of the day, the Noachites could do it. Okay, I don't want to go into that right now. That's for a different time. I have a few other points I want to get to here. Okay, now let's go back to the beginning. So the first thing the Torah says, and let's analyze this pasuk carefully. Shoftim v'shotrim titan lecha b'chol she'arecha. The first thing is that you have to have courts at the gates of your city. What does that tell you? Why do they should be at the gates of the city? They should be right. They're somehow very noticeable when you enter a city. Well, obviously, why? Exactly, very good, Mike. They just gives everybody there's going to be law and order here. If you have somewhere to go to, number one. Number two, it's in every city. And what happens is just practically, and this is something we could all relate to from the society that we live in, there's no judicial backlog. There are courts all over the place. You have a problem, you go to court. Maximum capital offenses, maximum of 2 days in Beis Din. No lawyers. And they come in, they speak to the judges, and the judges deliberate, and they pass a judgment. 23 judges, they take a vote by the next day. That's it. Now, people argue, yeah, but you're going to have a distortion of justice. Yeah, but look at the other system. The other system, you can't even get to court for 3 years. They lock you up, put you away. You understand, there's no perfect system. The Torah system is, let's go in. And these are all legal experts. These are all experts in halacha. They come in, they hear what you have to say, they cross-examine the witnesses. They're not what do you call it? It's not random and haphazard. They cross-examine the witnesses, and then they paskin a judgment. And it moves things. It keeps us safe. And not only that, you're going to get justice, and you know that you're going to be accountable. So it keeps everybody behaving, or most people behaving. And they move it very quickly. And not with haste, but there's no backlog. So you have some, and it's in every city. So you don't have to go to another town, what they call the circuit court and this court of appeals, and until you finally get somewhere. It takes years and years and years. There are these guys from 9/11. what's his name, the terrorists from 9/11. They're dragging around for 23 years already. And they still they keep overturning, and going into court, never gets like, okay, so the guy's locked up in jail all this time. Seder, what do you call it? He deserves to be locked up. But at the end of the day, the system doesn't work. And in the Torah, the system works. Now, the other idea here, did you ever hear the expression kshot atzmecha? What's the best word? What's the word for kshot? A good word for kshot. That it literally means to adorn yourself or decorate yourself, but it means to fix yourself up before you fix up other people. Now you got judges over here. So look what the Torah says. Shoftim v'shotrim titein lecha. You the judge, make sure that you're upstanding before you go judging other people, and you the enforcer, make sure that you're upstanding. Now, nobody's perfect, but there are going to be certain situations where, I heard a story. They got this guy. They bring him into court. They bring him, back in the days where there was only one rule of law. Either, noachad law, by the way, there's only one punishment. There's only one punishment in noachad law, no matter what you do. You break any of them by noachad law, it's death. In Torah law, there are fines, you pay. Noachad law, it's death. So there was this guy who stole. He was accused of stealing. So they bring him into court, and they sentence him to death. So he appeals to the king. He says, Excellency, before I die, I would just like to tell you, I know a secret of how to plant apple trees, and they grow in 10 minutes. Would you like to know the secret? So the king says, yeah. So I can make a lot of money over here. So they bring him, he says, they tell him what he needs. He needs some apple seeds and some oregano and a whole mixture of stuff like that. He mixes it all together. And he says, okay, now I'm ready to plant it. There's only one problem. This only works if it's planted by somebody who's never stolen. So I can't do it because I've stolen. I think maybe the minister of the treasury should plant it. The guy goes, oh, well, right, I don't know. I mean, listen, I've involved a lot of money. I probably unintentionally, maybe I accidentally, I says, okay, so then we'll give it to the Minister of the Interior. Go, I don't think so. It says, maybe, Excellency, maybe you yourself. So he said, oh, well, I remember once when I was a little boy, I took something from my father once without permission. He says, I understand what's going on here. You got me on stealing, and you're going to execute me, but none of you, you're no better than I am. So the judge has to be clean. And I was a kid, I told you this, I was a kid in Chicago. I was about maybe 11, 12 years old. The Attorney General of the state of Illinois, Paul Powell, they found in his house shoeboxes stuffed with $900,000 cash. Now we're talking about when I was 12 years old. That $900,000, probably today is $9 million. Stuffed in shoeboxes. So I was intrigued just by the idea of the shoeboxes. I was just picturing shoeboxes. And my father and his buddies, they're talking about, what a crook. And I said, why, what's wrong? He was saving money. What's the problem? And $900,000. They had a guy once wrote to Mike Royko. Mike Royko was a columnist, a very, very funny guy. He once wrote the expose on Mayor Daley in Chicago. So a guy wrote into the newspaper. He works at the Chicago Motor Vehicle Licensing office, where you go. You get and they used to tell us, when you go for your driver's license, if you failed the first 2 times, so the third time you put $20 in the ashtray, and then you get your license. I passed on the first time, but that was what they said. In case of in extenuating circumstances, put a 20 in the ashtray. All right. So this guy writes in to Mike Royko. He's 26 years old, and he's on the verge of a nervous breakdown because he works in the motor facility in Chicago. He's got so much cash, liquid, from bribes that he doesn't know where to hide it at this point. And he's having a breakdown because he's got all this excess cash running around. He can't put it in the bank because then the IRS will get on him, and he's going nuts because of it. That's why the Torah says, Shoftim v'shotrim titein lecha. You got to be impeccable also. You have to be beyond reproach, and that's why the next pasuk says not to take bribes. And the people who were on Beis Din were always people who were at a very high enough level that they were beyond reproach. Okay, that's idea number one. Now, there's a deeper idea here. If you take a look, Shoftim v'shotrim, every human being, number one, we have a judgment faculty, which is our brain. We also have an enforcement faculty, which is our will. We judge the actions, and very often we know what the right thing to do is, what the wrong thing to do is. We make the judgment. The Torah is saying, not only you got to make the judgment, but then you got to activate the willpower to enforce the judgment. Shoftim, judgment, make sure you judge the action. Should I do this or should I not do it? Vishotrim, and enforcers, titein lecha. Now I know that if I eat these devil Doritos, with what do you call it? They got the devil with a pitchfork and it's super hot, and I know that in 2 hours I'm going to pay a price. There's going to be a volcanic sensation in my chest cavity. Now I know that. Now I got to activate the shotrim. I got to activate the enforcers. And by the way, what I told you about modern Hebrew, do you know that, what do you call electricity in modern Hebrew? Chashmal. Do you know where that word comes from? That is, what's that? Yechezkel, exactly correct. It's a description of Yechezkel, the prophet, when he sees God's throne and the angels in the God's throne, and he describes them as having the appearance of Chashmal. It's like, you can't learn Yechezkel anymore without being distorted. They took the holiest of the holy, the deepest of the deep, and then they went and they made it into something you put on in your bathroom. And not only that, when you read Yechezkel, you can't, you're so used to, you grew up with the word Tadliket HaChashmal, so when you learn Yechezkel, you see the words, you think to yourself, wow, I guess they were pretty advanced back then. I wonder what kind of bulbs they had. What have we got? What are those called now? The new ones, the, what's that called? LED, yeah. The Wi-Fi one. Yeah, somehow I don't know if Yechezkel had that. You can turn on the air. All these things. Now, so you see, they took the words and absolutely distorted them. They just distorted. They butchered them. And my favorite one is the Gemara says, how do you say to waste in Hebrew? Lebazbez. You ever hear that word? Lo levazbez. You shouldn't waste anything. Yet the Gemara, when the Gemara talks about the laws of tzedakah, the Gemara says, "Hamevazbez al yevazbez yoser michomash." Now, if we translate it according to modern Hebrew, it means if you waste your money on tzedakah, don't waste more than 20%. We don't consider tzedakah a waste. It means if you spend more on tzedakah, don't spend. So they took that, and I'm distorted from it. Because every time I hear you, when I read that Gemara, when I see Hamavaz, I got to remind myself, whoa, we're not wasting over here. So that's what happened. So the Torah is telling you, you got to activate their brain power, the enforcers, b'chol she'arecha, in all your gates. What are the gates that are being spoken about over here? So the commentaries say, and this is why this comes up right before Elul, there are what's said to be 5 gates to the neshama. The gates to the neshama are our senses. Hearing, smelling, seeing, tasting, and touching. Touch is the tongue. The tongue is the most sensitive touching organ in the body. And it's telling us, Shoftim v'shotrim titen lecha b'chol she'arecha. All of our gates, the gates to our neshama. By the way, the eye is said to be the window into the neshama. The eyes are the window into the neshama. And you sense that the eye, there's something unique about eyes. And remarkable, I was talking to my granddaughter this morning. She's 2.5 months old. And she's lying on the floor. And as soon as you look at her, they look you right in the eye. Who told them? By the way, girls make easier babies, infant babies, studies have shown, make easier, more natural eye contact than boy babies. How do you like that? 2.5 months old. Little girl baby is already like this. A boy baby is, yo, what's up, bro? With his back to you. So how does she know to look at my eye? So Kabbalistically, the eye is said to be, first of all, the eye is the highest point, the functioning point of the body, unless you play soccer and you use your head. But the eye is the highest functioning oracle of the body. And the lowest, obviously, is waste removal. There's no accident there. There's no accident that that's the location, because we always think about high as being more spiritual and low is low. The lowest point on earth is Sodom. Isn't that true? The lowest point out, people even take pictures there. People go down to Sodom. Have you ever been there? By that rock, there's a big rock that says lowest point on earth. And people actually take pictures. Yes, I am one of the low people who is at the lowest point on earth. I could have told you that. We didn't need you to take a picture. So where's the highest point? Not coincidentally, Yerushalayim. What's the highest point in Yerushalayim? Beis Hamikdash. So we're not, Eretz Yisrael is, the Gemara says, the highest land. Well, we care about the, what do you call it, the map. We're going to go draw a map soon? The answer is that it's telling you the physical reality corresponds to the spiritual reality. The highest point Kabbalistically, even more than that. This is remarkable. This is really remarkable. Imagine you get an eyelash on your finger. What would your reaction be? One of your eyelashes falls out your finger. What would your reaction be? Probably wouldn't even notice it. Unless you looked and said, hey, an eyelash. And you wouldn't even feel it. You wouldn't even sense it. What happens if an eyelash gets in your eye? You're like this. Eyelashes, contact lenses. You're like, as soon as something irritates the eye, and by the way, when that happens, there's all social barriers are removed. You ever notice that? No matter who you are, where you are, if you have something in your eye, you'll go up to a perfect stranger. You're like, do I have something in my eye? They'll be good. It's like universal. You're just universally agreed upon. Eyes, yeah, we're all in. They go to anybody. Yeah, he's a Ku Klux Klan member. It doesn't matter, one second, we're time out to help you with your eye. Then we lynch you. But first, let's get that thing out of your eye so we can get our job satisfaction. So the eye, why is that? You know why that is? The more ruchni something is, the more spiritual something is, the less tolerance it has for something physical. The eye is the most ruchni, most spiritual part of the body. So the same way that the neshama, your soul, your neshama is very, very ruchni, doesn't want to be in this world. The neshama needs the body as a buffer to be in this world, to exist in this world. The same way that your shoe goes on your foot to stop your foot from touching the earth, the body to the neshama is like a shoe to the foot. And so the eye is the most spiritual. That's why any foreign invaders anything gets into the eye. So the eye, that's it. That's it. You can't even for a second. So the 5 gates, Shoftim v'Shotrim Tita Lecha B'chol She'arecha, those are the gates to the neshama, the 5 senses that we have, and we have to judge the use of those senses before making any decisions. That's what many of the Meforshim say. One last point on this. The 2 last points. There's a medrash that says like this. There's a king, and the king has a number of sons. His most beloved son is the youngest one. They love the youngest one the most. And he's got a number of orchards, and it's one of his orchards that he loves the most. He's got his favorite orchard, and he assigns all of his sons to go work in his various orchards. The youngest son, he goes and he assigns his youngest son to work in his favorite orchard. Why is that? Says the Medrash, it's a mashal, it's an analogy, a parable, and it's an analogy to Klal Yisrael. First of all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves Klal Yisrael the most. There's a pasuk that says, Kinar Yisrael v'ohavehu. The Jewish people are a child and Hashem loves them. Jewish people are a child and Hashem loves them. I'll explain what that means in a second, but for the sake of the analogy. And then there's another pasuk in Yeshaya that says, Ki ani Hashem ohev mishpat. I, Hashem, love justice. So what does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? He takes Klal Yisrael as the beloved child, and he gives them that which he loves most, which is Shoftim v'Shotrim Tita Lecha B'chol She'arecha. That he gives them, I want you to carry out justice. This I'm giving to you. I'm giving this to Klal Yisrael. He loves HaKadosh Baruch Hu's trait. What's HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How does he sign his name? Chosamo shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, when he signs, quote unquote, his name, his seal is emes, truth. There's justice. And a judge is not allowed to distort the judgment even for honest purposes. For example, a poor man and a rich man come to court. Say, you know what, I know that this guy's got the bucks, so I'm going to rule in favor of the poor man. You're not allowed to do that. Or, alternatively, the judge can say, oh, listen, he's a distinguished member of the community, he supports all the yeshivas, I'm going to rule in his favor, then I'll make it up, I'll pay back the poor man. You're not allowed to do any of that in judgment. You're not allowed, a judge has got to call it the way you see it. So what did Dovid HaMelech do? So Dovid HaMelech would call it the way he saw it, he would rule the way he was supposed to rule, and then, after the poor man paid the rich man, then Dovid HaMelech would reimburse the poor man. That you're allowed to do. That you're allowed to do. I ruled against the poor man. The poor man has to pay the rich man. So then Dovid HaMelech would reimburse the poor man. That's a chesed that you're allowed to do. Give him tzedakah to pay off the debt. But you got to rule the way the justice is. So Nar Yisrael v'ohavei Hashem loves the Jewish people. One of the explanations for that pasuk, what does it mean we're a child? Nar Yisrael, we are a child, v'ohavei, and Hashem loves us. Anybody have a big idea? What does that mean? What's that getting? What's that alluding to?
Capable of proper judgment?
No, to the contrary, we're going to judge properly. Nar Yisrael v'ohaveu.
But we are not enforcers.
No. We are the nar vis-a-vis HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have to have enforcers. There were enforcers. Everybody, it's a good job. Right? Nar Yisrael v'ohaveu means, what do you see? What's the difference between children and adults? There's one word. One difference between children and adults. Don't tell me age.
Responsibility.
That's the secondary. You're right. Most adults are not responsible. You're right. The big difference is enthusiasm. Children have energy. Children are pumped up. They're always ready to go. Especially after I finish giving them candy on Shabbos. My grandchildren, if they come in at 60 miles an hour, and then within a few minutes they're at 85 miles an hour. And my daughter said, and not so much candy's not good. Oh, don't tell me what to do. I raised you. I'll give them whatever I want. Get them wired and let her take care of them. Serves you right, girl. So the what do you call it? The difference is adults, it's like, been there, done that. Ask any adult that you see. Ask any of the, hi, how you doing? I'm so tired. Adults are always tired. All day long, we're tired. No matter, you got 8 hours sleep, a good breakfast, pumped yourself up with 2 cups of coffee. How you doing? I'm so tired. We're tired. Not tired, we're bored. Somebody once said the symptoms of laziness and fatigue are remarkably alike. Remarkably similar. So the different children are always pumped up. The minute a kid is sitting quietly, what do parents do? What's wrong? You're not feeling well? He's not bouncing off the wall. If the kid's not bouncing off the wall like Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, parents are immediately, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? Kinar Yisrael v'avei. You know HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us? When we serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu with the enthusiasm of a child, that's when HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves us. We're not dragging our feet in serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're doing what we're supposed to do. We're on our way. We're happily going to minyan at 6:45 in the morning. Nothing I'd rather be doing. Yeah, me and my tefillin. Oh yeah, my favorite. That's Kinar Yisrael Oveu. Okay, one last point. By the way, there's no shiur tomorrow. No, there's no shiur tomorrow, and I want to just do, before we stop, very quickly, we haven't had an advertisement for a while, so if anybody is interested in the file of how to run a successful Shabbos table, which is a guide for parents to run a Shabbos table, it is available. You can pay me at PayPal. You can PayPal me at my email, which is Dovid B. Kaplan, B as in baseball, basketball, badminton, busted bridges in Baltimore. There is also available a guide for parents to how to help their sons succeed in Gemara. And there's also a guide for parents who are trying to investigate shidduchim. So they're all available at Dovid B. Kaplan, Dovid B, as in baseball, basketball, badminton, busted bridges in Baltimore, Kaplan, Kaplan, at PayPal. Okay. If anybody PayPals me the money, it's $12 each for each file. If anybody PayPals, please include your email address so I can send you the file. Okay, one last point. So there's no shiur tomorrow. There's not going to be shiur tomorrow. Then we'll resume on Tuesday. The idea of Shoftim v'Totrim Titen Lecha, the basic insight into human nature. Every human being needs a certain amount of accountability. We need accountability. We think we don't. We look forward to vacation and you look forward to living on your own and doing your own thing, but that lasts only for a short time. We need accountability. The ultimate accountability is always when a person is married and has children. If you have a wife, you're accountable to a wife. You can't just do what you want to do. Something as simple as eating a Danish on your way home. And you ruined your appetite. And your wife made a supper for you. So you only had one portion instead of 2, 3, 4 portions. So now you have to apologize. You're accountable. It was inconsiderate of you. Or at least call her up and tell her to put it away. You'll eat later. There's accountability. And with children, it's even more. You know what the accountability is to children? You got to watch your behavior. You got to watch how you behave. Because your kids are watching you. I'm not accountable to them like I'm accountable to my wife. I'm not accountable to them like I was accountable to my parent. They can't discipline me. But I'm trying to educate them and raise them. If the kid sees how I bench and I bench without cover, that's how I'm accountable to this kid. If the kid sees that I get angry, so then he says, well, Dad get angry, I can get angry. If the kid sees I'm wasting time, so well, Dad could waste time, I could waste time. You understand? That's the heaviest accountability you'll ever have. Heaviest accountability, and if you think you could fool you, if you think your kids don't see, they see everything. They know, they see right. They may not want to say it because you'll get upset. They see exactly they see your consistencies, they see your inconsistencies, they see what's important to you, they see what's not, what you're trying to pretend is important to you, they see it all. That's Shoftim v'Totrim Titen Lecha b'chol she'arecha. That is basic human nature. That's one of the reasons. Why was the snake, what was the punishment of the snake? The original serpent, what was his punishment? Crawl around and you're going to eat dirt. According to some, eating dirt means eating the rodents that grow in the dirt, that are in the dirt. Snakes don't eat dirt, they eat rodents. But everywhere you go, you're going to have food. What's wrong? What's the shlech? So everywhere you go, you got your parnasa. What's wrong? The answer is because Hashem is saying, go. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. Go. Heard about a kid who once came to a psychologist. The kid was suicidal. The kid was about 17 years old. What happened? His mother died, I think. His father remarried. The second wife didn't want the kid in the house. Father was very wealthy. So he said, here's my credit card. Go rent an apartment. Go buy a car. Go do whatever you want. The only thing is I can't be in the house. Kid's a teenager's dream. Dad's credit card and no accountability whatsoever. Kid was suicidal. That's the ultimate punishment. The ultimate punishment is that the snake is punished. God says to the snake, I don't want to hear from you. I don't want to see you. Get out of my sight. Here, it's all available to you. Just get away from me. No accountability whatsoever. You're not looking over. And that's what people think in life, that they want to be free and they don't want. And at the end of the day, by the way, athletes, professional athletes who have all these groupies following them, they found that they often marry the girl who's the one who calls them out. Because he wants somebody until eventually he dumps her. But in the beginning stages, the one he marries is the one who's willing to tell him, listen, you're not all that. You're not all what you think. You're not what you, I mean, you got your flaws too. I need somebody to point to. I need accountability. All right, we'll continue Mitzvah Hashem on Tuesday.